Ready? Welcome to the San Francisco Public Library Commission meeting for January 16th, 2025. The time is 4:30 and I'm Margot Schaub. I serve as the Library Commission Affairs Analyst. This meeting is being held in person in the main library Corrett Auditorium, and members of the public can observe the meeting using the Zoom system by following the link in the library's event calendar or by calling 1-877-853-5247 and entering Zoom ID number 879-4943-8534. In alignment with the Board of Supervisors and other city commissions, members of the public who are attending the meeting in person may provide public comment for up to 2 minutes for each discussion or action item on the agenda. Library commissioners in attendance are President Connie Wolf, Vice President Pete Wong, Commissioners Mall, Lopez, and Bolander.
Thank you very much, and welcome to the first meeting of the Library Commission for 2025. Happy New Year to all. We are pleased to welcome those of you here in Corrett Auditorium and to our virtual audience over Zoom. We're excited about the year ahead. We have a new mayor. We're delighted by new leadership that will support the library and bring the city to new levels of excellence and engagement. So it's going to be an exciting year ahead. So let's begin our meeting today. We do have a full meeting, and we'll begin with the Ramaytush Ohlone land acknowledgement. The area now known as San Francisco is the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples of the San Francisco Peninsula. As the original peoples of this land, the Ramaytush Ohlone have never ceded, lost, nor forgotten their responsibilities as the caretakers of this place. We recognize that we benefit from living, working, and learning on their traditional homeland. As uninvited guests, we affirm their sovereign rights as First Peoples and wish to pay our respects to the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush community. For today's meeting, you may find all the materials at the back of the Corrett Auditorium, or they're available on the Library Commission webpage. Today we have a total of 5 agenda items, and as always, we begin with general public comment. This is a moment for members of the public attending in the Corrett Auditorium to address the Commission on items of interest to the public that are within the subject jurisdiction of the Commission. Please note that members of the public here in Corrett will have an opportunity to comment on specific agenda items when that item is called. I just want to remind our participants in the public today who want to participate that we begin with only having 2 minutes for each item on public comment. So general public comment is now open here in Corrett.
Feel odd going first. I'm just like, okay, so my name is Ruben, and on behalf of speaking on 1021, we're very eager to begin the conversation about the budget, and I know that Mike Fernandez was going to give a presentation today. One of the things that we heard last time was the sharing that the library has accumulated a fund balance, and there will be trade-offs, right? So we're eager to hear what this looks like, because I know, I think, Mike, you were saying there's going to be different, what's the word you use? Not situation, not trade-offs. Sorry, it escapes me right now. But you had different possibilities or something. So Labor's very interested to see what that looks like and being part of the process, because it's essential that we collaborate going forward, and any, the word I'm looking for, any other pieces that are part of this process is we would like to know about. So that's our opening statement. And hello, everybody, and we're excited about a new year as well.
Thank you very much. Any further public comment? And for those who are just joining us, I just want to reiterate that public comments and comments throughout the meeting are limited to 2 minutes. Thank you.
Peter Warfield, Executive Director, Library Users Association, Library Users 2004 at yahoo.com, and P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California, 94117-0544. Here's a headline in the Mercury News. Democracy is in peril, Biden says. Subhead, President uses farewell address to warn about ultra-wealthy taking over the U.S. And of course, we have quite a few of the ultra-wealthy who are trying to presumably take over the U.S. and damage democracy right here in San Francisco. And that just underscores what I've been saying for 3 years about the toxicity of social media, in particular Facebook, which Frances Haugen testified at the Senate about, and which was reported in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, and has since then had many variations. I think it is very wrong of you to just announce with no reason and no decision among the group to cut public comment to 2 minutes. Thank you for the little reminder. There was nothing on the agenda itself that indicated there was a new change. So you've cut 33% of the time for public comment, which is already very limited, and I think that's very wrong. And it's certainly undemocratic for there to have been no discussion, no vote on how you do your business. Since when does that just change without any indication of where the change came from, who was responsible, or anything else? And I still repeat about the toxicity of social media, what they've said. It's not just the toxicity, it's the library touting and unequivocally advocating for the patrons to use social media in much of its publicity. That's wrong.
Thank you very much. Any further public comment?
Hello, commissioners, library leaders. Good evening. My name is Emily Garvey. I am the Executive Director of Friends of the San Francisco Public Library. Happy 2025. 2024 came to a strong close at Friends. We had an excellent end-of-year campaign where we raised over $250,000 in the final weeks of the year with over 720 donations. So love and support for the library among San Franciscans is strong. We launched the SFPL store, which is roaring along. Please continue to check it out for new merchandise. And it's going to be a busy spring at Friends. Upcoming events include the Mary Louise Stong Breakfast, which will be in February for donors who have made the decision to include Friends in their legacy planning. And we are also in the thick of planning for Library Laureates, our biennial signature event on May 3rd. You'll hear more about that in future months. And we are also planning for our book sale block party, which will be in June this year on June 7th. Lastly, internally at Friends, our family is growing. We are adding staff members, one of whom you will hear from later, Chelsea Morrissey, who has joined us as our development manager, rounding out our fundraising team at Friends. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Further public comment?
Hello, I'm Chelsea Morrissey, and I've recently joined Friends of the San Francisco Public Library as their development manager. With a background in events, fundraising, and corporate engagement, I'm privileged to work alongside an exceptional team committed to advancing the library's mission. As an avid reader, the libraries in my hometown have always provided me with a safe haven to immerse myself in the literary world. Needless to say, I'm excited to embark on this journey to support the library as it plays a vital role in enriching lives and fostering a strong sense of community in the city.
Thank you very much. Any further public comment here in Corrette? Seeing there's no further public comment is now closed on item number 1. And we will now move to item number 2, which is discussion and possible action to approve the December 2024 commission meeting minutes. We will open for public comment before our commission discussion and action. Public comment is now open in Correct.
Peter Warfield, Executive Director, Library Users Association, Library Users 2004 at yahoo.com, and P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California, 94117-0544. This is where the library further silences people by twisting what they say in their made-up summary and taking the meaning out or ignoring things that people have said that's important. What I said last time wasn't just that you're seriously deficient, that's your evaluation. What I said was that you have left out very many important things, including the actual addresses that I give, how to contact me, and why that's important. They know how to reach you, but do the people, especially remotely, know how to reach Library Users Association? I'd like that included in the minutes since I speak it every time. I also said that the library's continuing to unconditionally encourage people to use social media in many of its publicity things is very wrong, considering how toxic it has been, according to not just me, but the Surgeon General, Francis Haugen, and many other people, particularly to teenagers and teenage girls. Are you, each of you, willing to have something that's toxic, that the Surgeon General has determined is toxic, touted in your library unconditionally without any warnings or any kind of other alerts for folks? I think that's very wrong, and that's what I said, and that's what you left out of the minutes then, and you'll probably do it this time as well. The book stop I mentioned was a rather weak collection of books in a single bookcase without any mention of the greater wonderfulness of the library, including a branch right nearby. That was also left out. I'd like it in. And
Thank you very much. Any further public comment on item number 2, the December Commission meeting minutes? Seeing there's no further public comment is now closed on this item, and I now turn it over to the Commission. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the December Commission meeting?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Huang and a second from Commissioner Mall to approve the December 2024 Commission meeting minutes.
And I'll take the roll call. Commissioners, please say aye or no when I call your name. President Wolf?
Aye.
Vice President Wong?
Aye.
Commissioner Mall?
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez?
Aye.
Commissioner Bolander?
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously. Now we turn to item number 3. Every January is a very exciting moment. We are going to be discussing the fiscal year 26 and fiscal year 27 budget. And just a reminder to the Commission and to our listeners on Zoom and our participants here, or guests here in Corrett Auditorium, this is a discussion item. We will not be voting on anything today. That will be coming to us in the February meeting. This is the second of 3 presentations on the budget. So I turn it over to our city librarian, Michael Lambert.
Thank you, President Wolf, and good evening, Library Commissioners. Happy New Year. It's great to be back in the saddle. This evening, library staff appreciate the opportunity to continue the budget discussion that began right before the holidays. At this stage, the prospective FY 26-27 budget is continuing to take shape for your consideration and input as we prepare for your approval next month. Our CFO, Mike Fernandez, is back again this evening to deliver this presentation. Mike?
Thank you very much, Michael. Good evening, President Wolf, Vice President Wong, and Commissioners. And I want to give a big thank you to all the dedicated staff here at the library that worked so hard to deliver on the budget proposals we'll start reviewing today. Today, I'm going to cover where we are in our budget process, the current budget environment, the guiding principles we use to prioritize, the state of our collections, the preliminary proposals, some additional budget context for you all to know, and then, of course, the next steps. I also do want to take this opportunity to note that the item before you, as the President said, is not an action item, but we are welcoming your feedback on what we present, and in February we will bring back the budget for your and options for your approval. The first few slides also do repeat some information we shared in December, to help provide some background for our discussion. And with that, here's the familiar budget calendar. As you can see by the yellow arrows, at our last meeting, we kicked off the discussion on budget priorities and context, and tonight we're going to continue that discussion. As noted, when we meet again in February, we'll be presenting you with options and asking for your approval on the budget proposals. As mentioned last time, the city is facing over an $800 million deficit over the next 2 years. The deficit is driven really from two places, and they are different for each year in the budget cycle. The first year of the budget cycle, really the deficit's being driven by revenues. And as we look out to fiscal year 27 and beyond, expenditures become the driving factor in that deficit. On the revenue side, like last year, we are seeing and projecting weakening hotel taxes. I'm sure you've all seen the news about the continued high office vacancies, and we're expecting to have that showing up more and more on the property tax side. On the general fund side, we are seeing a plateauing on the hospitality industry recovery from the pandemic, which is a critical piece of the general fund revenues. And just as a technical note, the mayor has made the policy choice again this year to go ahead and spread out the general fund balance over 3 years. On the expenditure side, unlike last cycle, we have now labor agreements that have been settled and will be in place for the next 3 years. And the city is projecting those salaries and benefits to rise faster than our revenue. What's sort of good news is on the healthcare side, or healthcare cost side, we are settling in at annual increase of just 6 to 7%, as opposed to last year, this time we were seeing 9%. So that has come down as an increase, but still a sizable increase. And pending any additional direction from the Lurie administration, we are still operating from the directions we received in December, including the mayor's priorities I presented last month, and as you can see here on the slide. As we discussed last time, the general fund departments are being asked for a 15% all ongoing reductions with no revenue or one-time cuts counting towards that 15%. That has not changed. The library is considered a self-funded department, so we are responsible just for budgeting to our own revenues and required to balance as such. The mayor is not entertaining any new positions at this time. Travel is being limited, and we are being asked to prepare for a continued weakening outlook. On our revenue side, I'm not so pleased to report that the Library Preservation Fund outlook has worsened since the last time you saw this budget, or last you approved this budget last cycle, and has been reduced to the tune of around $2.3 million. But it is expected to increase in the second year of our cycle, fiscal year 27, by $5.6 million, which is roughly 3%.
I don't get that at all.
In addition to the mayor's priorities, we do use Vision 2030 as a guide for our decisions this cycle. This helps guide our evaluations of the proposals that we'll be presenting to you in just a few minutes. We're getting there, I promise. But each January we do, part of our budget discussion, we do a deeper dive into our collections budget. It almost goes without saying, collections is such an important part of what we do as a library. It is really because of the importance it plays in our system that we constantly analyze and make adjustments when and where appropriate. As we do with our entire operation, we look to see where we can identify efficiencies and come up with creative solutions to more strategically align our resources to the revenues we have available to us. When looking at our collections budget, we did find opportunities to make some adjustments. These adjustments did not change the fact that we will continue to have one of the highest per capita book budgets in the country and remain on the high end with our peer urban libraries for collections budget. So let me provide you some additional insights on how we're able to maintain a high level of service level with taking these adjustments into account. For physical collections, this probably won't come as a huge shock to you, but in the audiovisual category, production of physical copies is starting to fall off as consumers' preferences have changed and their preferred ways of consuming media. And in response, this really means that we have less physical materials to bring in because there's simply fewer physical titles needed to add to the collection on an annual basis. We're also taking a sharper look on reports that for books that don't that don't circulate within the first 18 months of purchases, so that we can look at making not quite as large investment in those books. We are maintaining our existing budgets around literacy promotion, since we'll be focusing on our strategic planning implementation goals of supporting youth learning through Scholar at Home, Summer Stride, and our large array of youth outreach events. The primary way we achieve the same availability of books is by using this opportunity to switch to things like paperbacks, where we routinely have in the past purchased hardcovers, which reduces our cost but maintains the same availability for our patrons. On the e-collection side, we will continue to support our ebooks and e-media. However, we have several databases that are up for renewals, and we're seeing changes really on how our patrons are utilizing those services, especially in the areas of research. And as we're continuously evaluating our cost per use across those databases, in taking a look at those, we do anticipate savings in that area. So what does that look like over the 5 years, over the last 5 years? So as you can see, or the last 3 years and 2 years looking forward. As you can see, the collections budget has been relatively steady, whereas we can think of fiscal year 24's $21.97 million as really a good base level of funding. The reason I would say that is fiscal year 23, we had a one-time increase for the Mission Opening Day collection, and fiscal year 25, we did add some funds from the 21.97 number to build on our successful partnership with Hoopla to provide access to incarcerated populations. And with this budget going forward, we do intend to continue that investment. And this level of funding would still keep us, again, consistent with collection budgets of other urban libraries. Next, really in response to the feedback received from this body, we wanted to share information about labor and costs that above those have been assumed in our base budget that we have little to no control over without having to call them out as budget proposals. And in that first bullet, I will say we did have a slight error there that will be corrected in February's presentation. That $4.9 million in labor costs is just for fiscal year 26. The 2-year cost is actually 10.4, which brings the total to 12.1 million for over the next 2 years. So apologies for that, but that will be corrected in the next presentation. So that's really kind of the impact of labor over the next 2 years of those labor agreements. We have $1 million in technology costs. These are things like rising costs of software, really, and the funds we need to put aside to replace some of the hardware, like network switches and routers that have reached the end of their life that need to be replaced. We have $500,000 in facilities. These are things like rising costs for our restroom monitoring and workforce development grant, as well as just rising costs in waste management and things like that. On the arts programming, this is really just something that's not included in the base, and so to continue this program, we have to add it. And this is an annual allocation for youth programs that's formerly known as Writers Corps. And then, as we do every year, we receive more ideas than we can fund. However, in keeping with Vision 2030, I wanted to make sure to update this body with ideas that we're going to be able to go forward with without having to add new funds. We're able to do this by making some adjustments on how we research our activities, as well as utilizing some project savings. So really, the first and last bullets there are some good examples. The Read to Recovery and Vinyl. In the past years, to respond to new ordinances and to rising demand, we would have simply come before you and asked for new budget to acquire more resources, new displays, and the like. However, in getting staff together, we realized that we could modify our existing layout and utilize displays to really incorporate these two new materials so we could be in compliance with City Ordinance 240332, as well as our growing interest in the vinyl collections without needing to make new budgeted investments. This also has the added benefit of really being able to do that work now and not have to wait for a new budget cycle and wait for those funds to come in as an added bonus. We also have identified project savings in capital and are able to set aside those funds so we can start making assessments for the new Latinx Affinity Center, the refresh of the Deaf Services Center, and replace furniture here at the main Library Fisher Children's Center. And taking a hard look at our technology purchases, we found that we could indeed maintain our current technology procurements and invest in assistive technology by reprioritizing the tempo and how we purchase. And I do want to let you know that while we go through the same process every year, again, I do think it's important to make sure that we are communicating that we are doing this, and we are finding solutions to ensure we are making the investments towards our Vision 2030 without having to come before you and ask for new budget to do so. That said, there are needed investments that as responsible stewards, we identified as necessary. And you can see those here. Let me walk you through how to read this table. I know it's dense. The proposals are grouped by budget priorities, which includes our current strategic priorities. To the right, you'll see proposal titles, which you'll see, to the right, you'll see the proposal titles. And to the right of the titles, you see an indication of whether or not those proposals are on a one-time basis or on an ongoing in nature. If they're ongoing in nature, again, they get added to our future base budget. To the right of that is the base budget we started with in fiscal year 26, if there was any. To the right of that is the increase in 26, and the next column is the increase in 27, and that final column is the investment for the entire cycle. Now, for ongoing investments, keep in mind, once we add it in 26, it gets added again in 27, so those amounts are effectively double in the 26 and 27 column. You'll notice that we have a few priorities here represented that were not explicitly part of Vision 2030. We created a few priorities this budget cycle to capture the work of our support service divisions. These are complementary to the strategic priorities laid out in Vision 2030 and help guide our divisions to ensure that we are supporting the units more directly involved in the strategic plan implementation. So going through the proposals, as I mentioned earlier, we had found some ways to provide comparable service as we do today and achieve some cost efficiencies in the collections budget. For digital strategies, as mentioned last time, we do have to absorb some significant cost increases to our public licenses. So that's there. The next two categories are those new categories I was just mentioned. The first up is the continuous capital fund that we budget annually with the CPI increase each year. That amounts to 1.8 in fiscal 26 and 1.9 in fiscal 27. Next, we still have a forklift actually from the turn of the last millennia in service that needs to be replaced, and that's going to cost $50,000. Next, we have a safety project here at the main, which we were able to bring before you last year. However, as the estimate has been refined and that scope has been better defined, we have found that to meet the air circulation needs in the building, we really need to increase that $4 million investment by $2.5 million this cycle. And next, the next one down, really, as hard as Public Works and our team endeavor to contain cost increases in construction, it is construction, and there were unforeseen delays and additional costs that amount to a needed investment of additional $3 million for the Mission Branch renovation. Next, we have a delivery services truck that has well exceeded its useful life and is recommended for replacement, and that's going to cost us around $60,000. And last, but certainly not least, the staff demand for American Sign Language and captioning services are rising, and so this proposal would bring the budget up to meet those costs, which we anticipate about $14,000 on an ongoing basis. So to sum up, we are considering a $5.9 million increase in fiscal year 26, almost all of which would be one-time investments. And fiscal year 27, $2.3 million again, or 2.4, again, nearly all all one-time investments. And as you can see on the chart below, capital costs make up the bulk of that operational efficiency and/or enhancement category, which is nearly 80% of all the investments contemplated at this time. So that's, as is the nature of our way we budget, that is always a big piece of our budget picture. So to give you some additional budget context, I wanted you for your consideration as you discuss these preliminary proposals. First off, in addition to the infrastructure budgets we discussed earlier, we have about $7.1 million already included in the base for capital projects. And as we continue to get to know the new we are still getting to know the new administration. However, I'm happy to report they are retaining the bulk of budget staff so we are not anticipating any changes in the budget instructions at this time. Also, as we have discussed here tonight, we will continue to look at Vision 2030 to ensure that, with all the context that I've showed, that the library will be prepared to meet the moment and be an even better resource for our communities. Looking ahead this month, we are continuing to refine our budget proposals and confirm our interdepartmental work orders. Those work orders are other agencies like Public Works who perform work on our behalf. And in a matter of weeks, I'll be before you again requesting approval for your budget. And with your approval, we would be submitting to the Controller's Office and the Mayor. And with that, thank you very much for your time and attention this evening. I look forward to presenting options for you next time, and I'm going to be here for your questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you very much for the very robust presentation. I'm sure there will be even more robust conversation following. Before we turn this over for discussion at the commission level, we are pleased to offer public comment here in Corrett Auditorium. So Corrett, all participants here in Corrett, public comment is now open.
My question was, and thank you, Margot. My question was, Mike, we were sharing pending any directions from the mayor. Is that something that's going to be happening soon, or you're saying, or was the suggestion that it may happen? Okay, gotcha. That's all the questions I have for now.
Thank you very much. Any further public comment on this agenda item, the fiscal 26 and 27 budget proposal?
Peter Warfield, Executive Director, Library Users Association, Library Users 2004 at yahoo.com, and P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California, 94117-0544. Welcome to debookification and the pushing down of print material, which is accessible to everyone, in favor of spending more money on electronic materials which are not available to everyone, especially all the vulnerable populations, minorities, poorer people, older people, disabled people. You're spending more money on electronic than on print, and then you're going to cut print more than electronic in the future. And you have all kinds of clever ways of finding how to delete books, for example, if they don't get used, circulated in the first 18 months after they've been acquired. Well, that's not necessarily unreasonable, but what about the impact of closed shelving? A huge number of the book materials are on closed shelving where they're not readily accessible to anybody who's browsing. What about the impact of fewer hours? The library has cut the 9 o'clock closing hours from basically every library that had it previously, which was most of them, multiple times a week. There's no accounting for the huge increase in book circulation, which has happened since COVID. Much of what you're talking about is patterns that may have developed during COVID when there was no book access, no physical material, and so on. There's no calculation here for reference materials and how often those are used, and in particular, newspapers and magazines, which are very important for democracy, and the very considerable use that that gets in libraries, but isn't recorded anywhere or reported anywhere. There's a lot of problems.
Thank you very much. Any further public comment on this agenda item? Seeing there's no further public comment is now closed, and we now turn this over to the commission for questions and discussion. Mike, just before we begin, can you refresh us, because it's not in the materials, what is a projected budget, total budget for fiscal year 26 and fiscal year 27, and what is the proposed, the deficit?
From the base budget, I don't have that memorized. Let me get that back to you in a couple minutes.
Okay,
But the-
just
but
to put
the-
it in context, because
yeah.
I don't want to like debate like $18,000 here or $18,000 there when we're talking about the last budget was 199 million. I just kind of want to make sure that we're keeping things in perspective.
Sure. Well, as you can see here, for fiscal year 26, we would start with a base budget of 184.5 million.
Okay,
So that's what we'd start with, and then, or a little over that, because that's the revenue side. Let me pull that up for you in a second, but then the base budget comes pretty close in 27.
thank you. So comments, questions for Mike and the budget? Just a reminder, we will be voting on, reviewing it in more detail with some options in February. So this is just for an opportunity to ask questions. Commissioner Bolander.
Thanks. Thank you for the presentation. The projected estimates for the preservation fund for 27, you show 190, but then the line above is the future weakening outlook. I mean, how much do we believe the 190 number if we think things are going to be continue to weaken? I mean, FY26 is down 1.3%, but 26 to 27 is like 3.2%. But if things are starting to decline, I don't know how much we should believe that, or what should we plan for? Like, so any comments on that?
Yeah, so I totally understand that perspective, and I hear that. We have to think about it both ways. So we are tasked with putting forward a budget that meets our revenues, so as they're projected. So we have that. At the same time, we do plan for, should that not materialize, what are we going to do? Make sure we have sufficient capacity and any other backup plans that we may need to have to make sure that we'll be okay. What we've experienced so far really is flattening revenues, right? We're very slow growth, and it's just not keeping pace.
Flattening.
Right, so it's been pretty flat. The 27 projection of that increase, it could come back down to, most likely it could come back down to where it is now, to another slow growth year. That is certainly possible. That we're looking at all those eventualities, but kind of the 190 is more in the median kind of realm, because it could be higher than that as well.
And that's just for clarification. So that's the Library Preservation Fund, but our total budget, we do get some from the general fund, or because no. So we basically from this year to this year, it's 199 down to 184. Like, we can use reserves, but I mean, if we're supposed to balance to revenues, we're gonna have to pull from reserves.
For 26, yes.
For 26, right? And
Yeah,
how much?
and I'll have more detail on that in
Okay,
February.
and how much do we generally have in reserve?
How much we generally have in reserve?
Like right now?
Like right now, we currently have a bit under $20 million in
20.
reserve.
Okay, so we'd have to pull like a substantial portion of that.
Yeah, it would be a significant portion.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. Thanks.
Any other further comments, questions? Commissioner Mall?
I know I should probably know this, but the reserve fund that you're talking about, the Library Preservation Fund estimates, the $2.3 million less, can you just elaborate on that again for me?
Sure. So this time last, or a month from now, last year, this body went ahead and approved a fiscal year 26 budget that assumed a certain amount of, we would have a certain amount of revenue in
Right.
fiscal year 26, as
Okay,
well
I
as
get
fiscal
that.
year 25. And we're in fiscal year 25 now. We know more now about what the revenue is likely to look like, because we're 1 year closer. And given what we know now, that that projection has come down. Whereas in last year, I think it went up slightly. It was, less than $1 million, I think, change, if memory serves, but it was somewhere around there. And this time around, it turned out they're projecting right now that they were optimistic by about 2.3 million.
And how much of this money is dependent on the fluctuations of bonds, stocks, the market, wherever the money is?
So directly, not really much at all. As far as that goes, we get roughly half our funding from the general fund and the other half from property tax. And property tax is also a component of the general fund, so property tax has kind of a larger overall impact on us, generally speaking. So property tax is the one we watch the most closely for that reason. But as far as the general fund kind of rises with and falls with the general state of the economy. And within San Francisco, things like sales tax as well, and the transit occupancy tax, the hotel, part of the hotel taxes, and things like that. So the general fund has several sources that it's sourced from that combine to make up the library preservation fund. And what the voters passed is we get a percentage of the general fund annual discretionary revenue every year. So depending on how much that discretionary revenue is our allocation through the Library Preservation Fund.
Okay, I get that. But the Library Preservation Fund that was passed by the voters last November, where does that sit? Is it just like one sum of money that sits somewhere waiting to be dispersed?
That's an interesting way to ask that question. The Library Preservation Fund, again, it's the combination of those two, right? So
The general fund?
the general fund and the property tax.
Okay, I get
Property
that.
tax is a little bit easier because it's generally collected twice a year.
Okay.
But not entirely. But generally speaking, there's two big payments every year. So if you're a property owner, you probably know those months when they come. So that's usually pretty lumpy. But it's the city generally they will allocate to us, as the revenues come in, generally speaking, on a cash basis. But really, when we operate, how we operate is more based on the appropriation. So when the board adopts the budget, they do so by ordinance, and they appropriate funds to us, and then we are legally authorized to spend those funds. And the cash basis side of it, while important, really when we talk about the budget and what you're approving is that legal authority. So that's the part we more focus on.
So it's very current, is what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's just really, as we discuss, year by year.
Correct.
So the Library Preservation Fund is not sitting in some hallowed ground somewhere,
No.
waiting to be appropriated.
Correct.
Okay.
We get appropriated annually, yes.
Sorry.
I think Commissioner Bolander was
That
thinking
was a
like
great
it was like
question.
in a mattress somewhere, just waiting.
No.
It's under Mike's mattress.
Yeah, it's,
Right.
what the Library Preservation Fund, what it did, it was about percentages of these other
Of the
funds.
general fund or the property.
And then, so we get that, so it's not, there were estimates about how much money that would bring to the library over the course of 25 years,
So the estimate was,
based on projections of what the general fund and what the tax base would be.
okay, and they were wrong last year by $2.3 million. Pardon? They were right.
$2.3 million.
Yes, they were overly optimistic,
Yes.
not cautiously optimistic.
Yes.
They were, drinking the martini.
Right.
So it's not like we were, with the passing of the Library Preservation Fund, correct me if I'm wrong, there isn't like all of a sudden there's $5 billion sitting in an account and we just draw on it
Correct.
over 25 years. It
Okay.
doesn't work that way.
Okay.
Every year, it's recalculated, but based on the percentages that the voters approved.
Of the revenue.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, if you will permit me, Madam Chair, did all my commissioners understand that perfectly? Yes? Okay, so it's only me sitting here that didn't quite get that? You're with me?
It's a mind-bending thing.
I guess it's not like a university endowment where you have like
Okay,
a cash.
thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's
Thank
not like
you.
that.
It's not like
Yes.
that.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. There's no like investment account where you're like, you have like a fund manager trying to like
Yes. Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
play the market along the same, you know, so we're like removed from the impact of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's
Thank
no
you.
guarantee of a certain amount of money that we would get over.
It's just the
It was-
percentage.
There were numbers thrown
Okay.
about with anticipation of what this would bring to the library. But we, like everything in the city, we fluctuate because we're dependent
On the
general
economy.
fund, on the economy.
I get it.
And the livelihood of the city of San Francisco.
Yes.
And so the more San Francisco comes back to life, the more we benefit.
And the percentage doesn't change.
Correct.
That's what the voters voted on.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
But the
Okay.
amount changes
Got
based
it.
on
Okay.
what's happening in
Okay.
the city.
I've been sitting here a long time. I finally got it.
Well, we're just glad you voted. We're glad it passed and that we have this. But it means that, you know, in good times, we
Yes, we do well.
really well. And I think in the past when we've done well, Maureen, when she was in this role, you know, they would kind of put some of it away
Right.
for a rainy day.
Right.
And this is
And this
why
is-
we have this support, because we put it away for a rainy day. And now it's a
Exactly.
sunny day, but we need a little bit more money to keep bright, to keep the lights on. So that would be,
So the library's finances basically have been dependent for years on the Library Preservation Fund.
correct,
Okay. Got
yes,
it.
since it started.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
we're
but there was
fortunate-
one before that, right? And then it
There were
expired.
two.
Two before that, okay.
Two before that. But this is the first
This was
time
longer.
that it's for 25 years.
Right.
And there are some other stipulations in there depending on catch-up, and that's a little bit more, that's for phase 2 of your
Okay.
education.
Right. That's for middle school. Right, that's middle school. Right.
Commissioner Lopez.
Mike, thank you so much. The things you learn in the commission meetings. Budget was not thing for me, but I'm learning so much. And I'm finally getting it. I have a question on the operation costs and the strategic resources priority. What you presented says that over 1 million will be used in new initiatives. And then my question, like, are we talking about programming, personnel, capital plan changes, you know? Can you elaborate as to like what the 1 million and 1 million compared to other areas where we're talking more than 1 million? But just, what does it entail? Like, is it to create new things or to improve what we already have? Because I see the Latinx Affinity Center, the Refresh of the Dead, you know, so briefly, could you just give us an idea?
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner, for the question. Yeah, that $1 million is really to illustrate the priorities that, or the proposals that we received that we were not able to add additional funds for. So this is just an idea, kind of the scope of the proposals that we do get. And this is not unusual. Every year we do get quite a few proposals that we can't fund for one reason or another. Some of them we can do with existing resources and just refocus. And some of the times we have to defer those proposals. These were some particularly good ideas that should we have the revenue, we might have considered funding in addition, making additive investments. But we went ahead and looked at these proposals and figured out ways that we could actually implement them with the resources we already have. So just to give you a general sense of the scope of what those were, that was about $1 million. And they range, like you said, there are some that are programming, some are response to the new ordinance that was passed for Read to Recovery, some are new initiatives that are responding to Vision 2030 in future changes that we want to make, similar to what I brought to you last year for the last cycle, certain investments that we want to make here physically, like the Latinx Affinity Center and things like that we are able to find existing resources that we didn't have to make new investments in. So this $1 million of ideas are not requiring new investments.
Okay, I have a follow-up.
Sure.
So you said new proposals that are coming from where?
From staff.
Okay, just to make sure, okay. Thank you.
Great questions. Thank you.
I think this was a really great presentation. I just want to encourage you for the next meeting, it would be great to have that overview image, slide that you used last time that showed the overall budget and everything. So once again, we're kind of always seeing all this incredible detail in relationship to the bigger picture, so that we just understand where we are and where we're going, where we've come from. That would be great to just slip that in. You already have it, so just use it.
Sure.
I also just want to add that these are tough times for so many people in this city, and so many departments have been asked to, there's a hiring freeze put in place. This is a tough moment for our city, even with the excitement of a new leadership. So I just want to commend the staff for recognizing that this is to really embrace the moment of less could actually bring us more, and to really fine-tune what we do, make it better, do it more efficiently. I think the collections department has demonstrated that we're not going to at all compromise any of our services or our offerings, but we're going to find better and more efficient ways of doing it. So I want to just encourage the staff these are moments to be bold, creative, resourceful, and it will just be wonderful. It's a wonderful feeling when you can actually do more with less. And so I just want to say thank you to the staff for moving from this period of growth to recognizing that we're having to really still serve our citizens and our communities with a little bit less. So I just want to say thank you. Okay, we're now going to move on to item number 4, which is always a pleasure, the City Librarian's Report.
Thank you, President Wolf. We have a couple of reports lined up this evening, and I'm pleased to introduce our first presenter, Rebecca Alcala-Vera-Flor, our Chief of Branches. And this evening, she's going to provide an overview of our Council of Neighborhood Libraries Advocacy Group. Rebecca?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm here, as Michael said, Rebecca Alcala-Vera-Flor, Chief of Branches. I have the honor and the privilege of overseeing our 27 branch libraries and also our Council of Neighborhood Libraries. I come to you today to talk about this special group for who decades has supported the Branches Division of the San Francisco Public Library. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to this group and go to their origin story. So this is a newsletter from the Glen Park News in the spring quarter of 1990. So the origin story of the council begins in 1988 when the threat of library closures became a call to action for library advocates and power users who fought to keep branch libraries open. In 1990, Hope Hayes, Chief of Branches at that time, brought together this broad group of neighborhood library supporters at the request of the city librarian Ken Dowling and San Francisco Mayor Art Agnos. In the council, these activists found a forum where they could voice their strong opinions about libraries' policies and services. From there, the council became a rallying force for the neighborhood and citywide support for branches. Council members were instrumental in fighting branch closures and the diminution of library programs and services. They worked tirelessly in their neighborhoods for the proposition of Prop E in 1994 to ensure more books, more hours. The San Francisco History Center was able to provide me with this newsletter, so I encourage you to go to them to find out more information about our fabulous city. And this article under Council of Neighborhood Library News was actually written by Carol Steinman, who was the Glen Park representative and who later became a library commissioner. So let's see. So the CNL developed and adopted a mission statement in 2001, which is to create a public library system that best meets the needs of San Franciscans. The CNL promotes dialogue among the among and between branch libraries, San Francisco neighborhoods, and library and city decision makers. They promote public awareness about the library system and its services, identifying and championing branch needs, and working to resolve issues, acting as a conduit for neighborhood input. Here we have a photo taken in 2024 at the end of year winter gathering that we typically host. This is actually our first one back in person since 2019. So this was really a special opportunity. We have Charles Moody here along with his wife, and she is our unofficial, but he is our official, Ortega CNL representative with Michael and myself. It was a really great event being able to see everyone in person. Okay, let's see. All right. Our CNL reps embody the original mission statement created in 2001. You will find them promoting library services at community events, branch open houses, and other events in support of the library. Here we have Nikki Tresmina with Michael Lambert at the Ocean View Branch Open House. Judy Blanchard and Kathy Maligny are Merced CNL reps at the annual open house. Reps for Chinatown and Ocean View branches, for example, have attended and promoted our branch renovation public meetings. And as we developed the new strategic plan, we shared our progress with them and listened to their feedback. Many of our CNL reps have volunteered in this role for many years, while others are new to the group. The CNL reps come to us as a recommendation by the branch manager, an introduction by another current CNL rep, or by visiting our library website. Here we have Diane Silver and Marcia Ehrlich supporting the Park Branch Open House. We have Nora Dowley helping a young person make buttons from pages of repurposed books at the Glen Park Branch Open House. Nora let us know that she didn't leave that table for the entire open house. It was that busy. It was great. All right, and so I want to say thank you to this amazing group of folks. They are our power users. They're local subject matter experts, active users of the neighborhood branch library. For example, we've got Peter Lindenthal is currently a representative for the Potrero Branch Library. He does some of the historical books, and he's done talks at the library as well. His books are included in our collection. Amy Tan, one of the first members of the CNL, representing the Presidio branch. Her books are also found in our collection, should you choose to check one out. So our CNL representatives come with a wide variety of work and personal experience. They're educators, writers, community organizers, parents, caregivers, artists, world travelers, filmmakers, poets, students. We've had high school students, library commissioners from before they become some and some after perhaps, retired librarians. Some of our CNL reps have become librarians, which is wonderful. So this original group, I just want to say thank you. We were talking about the Library Preservation Fund and Prop E and all of those ways that we're able to budget and have our services for the public. I mean, we were looking at times when we were possibly, not we, I was too young back then, but the library was looking at closing branches. And I can't imagine a time when we don't, I remember when we didn't have 7-day service. I can't imagine a time where some of our branches would have been closed. And so I just want to thank this group of folks who have done amazing work, who started it, and then for the amazing groups who continue to do the work in advocating our library, our public services, and just being our power users and spreading the word of what the library can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. We are certainly standing on the shoulders of giants. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our next presenter, Naomi Jelks. You may know her as the library's racial equity manager, but recently Naomi stepped up, raised her hand, and she is now the acting manager of the main library. And this evening she's going to talk about More Than a Month, our annual celebration of Black history and culture.
Thank
Naomi?
you, Michael. Commissioners, good evening. So I'm here today to talk to you about our More Than a Month Black History Month programming. On the slide in front of you is art by Bayview Hunters Point artist Malik Seneferu. He currently has a display happening in the African American Center that runs through April 22nd. Shauna Sherman is hosting that program. She would be here tonight otherwise. So I'm going to start with some adult programs. So 2 programs I'd like to especially highlight include the photography of Monetta Sleet Jr. from Ebony Magazine. This is a virtual program. This program presents on the life and legacy of Pulitzer Prize-winning photographer Monetta Sleet Jr. Starting in 1955, Sleet captured images of Black people in America and throughout the world for magazines like Ebony and Jet, and produced iconic images of the civil rights movement, particularly of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In 1969, Sleet became the first Black person to win a Pulitzer Prize, which was awarded for his photograph of Coretta Scott King at her husband's funeral. The other program I'd like to highlight is Shadows and Light, exploring Black horror and Black healing. So as some of you may know, Black horror is having a moment the last couple of years. So this program is happening on Sunday, January 19th. The keynote speaker and author, Tanana Rive Du, explores the history and impact of Black horror in literature and film, and discusses how it serves as a medium for healing and empowerment. We will also be showing a series of films and offer a variety of book clubs. I would like to point out some of my favorite films that we'll be showing. Fences by August Wilson, which features Viola Davis and Denzel Washington, and American Fiction, featuring Jeffrey Wright. Looking at book clubs and author talks, my favorite book currently is Unbought and Unbossed by Shirley Chisholm. Chisholm was the first Black woman to serve in the U.S. Congress, and it's a fantastic book, and I would encourage anyone to go to the book club. Additional adult programs I'd like to mention are 2 workshops we're offering in the branches. One is a workshop on Adrinka stamps, stamp making and the history of Adrinka art, and also a workshop that helps folks to create art in the style of Betty Saar. And I also am going to attend a great program on Black voices in opera. So as you all know, commissioners, Black History Month is every day. And so we don't only host Black History Month programs in February, but year-round. This month, one of our branch programs that I'd like to highlight is a program with Dr. Misha Booker. Dr. Booker will be offering a program entitled Planting the Seeds of Possibilities. This program hopes to cultivate a positive inner voice within youth through affirmations and self-empowering dialogue with Dr. Misha, Dr. Mishi Booker of Hay Carter Books. Each participant will decorate and take home their personal planter and give life to their words. This should be a good one. This program was included in the slide deck because I had the pleasure of meeting this author just in community, and our second floor, our children's program manager, Lenny Matthews, hosted this program in October. Author Joy Jones, her book entitled Jayla Jumps In is a book about double dutch. And double dutch involves jumping rope with 2 ropes. It's a very popular sport activity in the Black community. This program was especially delightful because participants got to do a read aloud of her book, but also learn how to double dutch. I myself do not double dutch, but I will shout out Lenny Matthews is awesome. And some of the staff in the Children's Center also learned. So it was really great fun, and it was a great engaging program for all ages. Some favorite Black History Month presenters are coming back. We've got Kirk Waller, a musician. He's going to be offering his usual storytelling, stories to take you far and away. This program is offered for children and their families, and although he's done some programs last year, he's got a couple coming up in February. We've got Caribbean music for children with the Sheba. Again, we've already had some of his programs, but he always appears in our library, and patrons delight over his musical offerings. We've also got Fauna Solomon, the history of steel pan, happening in our branches, which will, excuse me, takes folks on a trip to the tropical West Indies to learn the unique history of the steel pan, often called the steel drum. Steel pan's origins in the Caribbean is a tool of resistance and cultural pride, and this program is for children and their families. Moving along, we've also got Keenan D. Webster appearing in our branches, as well as one of my favorites, the Kalimba King. My daughter really enjoyed him when she was young, and it's a great fun instrument to learn to master. All right, closing out really quickly. So we've got Unique Tariq. He's offering the history and art of Hambone, and that's going to be in our Noe Valley branch. We've got Music is First, a live performance happening in our Chinatown and West Portal branches. And everyone's favorite, Jarrell Phillips, he's offering a youth program in our branches in March, a little bit further out. We've got lots of history with Jarrell, so it's always great having him back in the house. Thank you so much for your time, commissioners, and I'm here for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Naomi. A lot to look forward to. And thank you again for stepping up to be our acting Main Library Manager. And that concludes the City Librarian's report.
Wonderful, as always learning something new, and incredible efforts on behalf of the staff. Before we bring this to discussion at the commission level, we will open this up for public comment. Public comment is now open on agenda item number 4, the City Librarian's report.
Peter Warfield, Executive Director, Library Users Association, Library Users 2004 at yahoo.com, and P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California 94117-0544. I'm always glad to hear about some history and program presentations. Your discussion about the Library Preservation Fund in the immediate moment left out something that was very important according to this history of the Council of Neighborhood Libraries, and that was their work on Prop E, which was the first Library Preservation Fund. That provided for funding for a library running its operation, and if there's any money left over, there was to be a priority on books and open hours. That was very clear. They didn't want to be paying for capital projects and so on. They wanted to have an operating library and not have it drained, have money drained away for capital things which could be funded in other ways, for example, bonds. That has changed in the subtle and small but significant changes in the Library Preservation Fund's subsequent incarnations, where that emphasis has been taken away. And that's one of the things at the base of what I would consider the debookification here. And with respect to the Black History Month, I'm glad to hear about all the programs which sound terrific, but I am disappointed that there isn't more on the political and social change efforts. Martin Luther King, James Baldwin I haven't seen, and I've seen very little in.
Thank you very much. Any further public comment? Seeing there's no further public comment's now closed. And we will now turn it over to comments and discussion and question from the commission. So just want to begin by thanking Rebecca and Naomi for their outstanding presentations. And it's hard to imagine having 27 branch libraries that you're overseeing. And Naomi, thank you so much for stepping in and serving as the acting manager of the Main. That's really wonderful of you to volunteer to do that. So thank you. I just want to add two things before we open it up, that there are two really great outstanding events coming up that are not part of either of these discussions, and one is on this coming Saturday. There's an amazing new documentary on, it's really about the history of libraries in America, but it starts and ends and features throughout the San Francisco Public Library. It began as a documentary on the library, but then expanded out, and it's really outstanding, and that's happening this Saturday here in Corrett Auditorium, and then it will be viewed on, available on PBS, I believe in April. But it's extraordinary, and it makes you feel incredibly proud to be part of this library system. The second I just want to mention is that the San Francisco's 9th Poet Laureate, Jenny Lim, will be officially inaugurated on Sunday, February 2nd, and I think that's going to be a really spectacular and beautiful and moving event as well. So just had to put my two things out there to encourage. Okay, comments, discussion. Naomi, Rebecca, if you want to be available for any comments or questions. I think we're just all so satiated with incredible activities that you do and the reach of what you do to reach every branch, to reach every community, not only through programming, but also through the advocacy and participation of the community leaders to be part of making the branches so vibrant, but also ensuring that the activities go to every branch. And there's something for everyone at all times. So thank you. Oh, Commissioner Lopez.
Thank you both, Rebecca and Naomi. The programming is exciting. I do have a question for Rebecca. For the NCL, so if I understood, each branch has its own committee, and then there's a larger committee? Can you just?
Absolutely. I can explain the structure of it
Okay.
for sure. So what we strive for is having 2 members of the community representing each branch. And then we meet together monthly. It's usually the 4th Thursday of the month, so we have our next scheduled meeting next Thursday. And then those representatives come, they hear about what's going on in the library, they provide feedback, and that's how it's worked. So it's 2 members per location. It fluctuates because this is volunteer, but that's our goal. Some people like to, for Richmond for a minute there, I almost had like 5 folks. I'm like, hold on, folks. I love Richmond too, but.
And a follow-up question. And every branch pretty much have at least 1 or 2 that, or are there some branches that are more active, or, because I think that, and the reason for my question is that I feel that we can encourage or, do public announcements for people to,
Right.
on those branches that might not be as active as others.
So we do have some of our locations where we've had, it's been harder to get someone to join. We used to meet in person, and that was very difficult for people to participate because it was here at Maine, and it required folks coming from different parts of the city at 4 o'clock for a meeting. When we moved over to Zoom and having the meetings there, the numbers increased quite a bit. And so some of our locations, yes, we still are struggling to find people. One of the things that I try to encourage our staff to look at is not necessarily just residents, but community-based organization leaders who are very active in the community and have been there for a long time and are active with people who are there in the community. So we've had people, for example, from Wu Yi representing from Chinatown. So she doesn't necessarily live in Chinatown, but she works in Chinatown and has for many years. So those are some examples of where, or people who've, work in the school and they want to come and represent. So it fluctuates, and we're always trying to find creative ways to get people to join. So we have a few branches right now, but most of our branches do have representation at this point.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you again for the extraordinary work, and we also know that what you are presenting, there's a lot of people that support this as well, besides just the two of you doing this work. So just want to thank the staff for their commitment, engagement, and a dedication to serving the communities in such meaningful ways. We will now turn to item number 5, which is adjournment, and today we are adjourning in memory of Larry Ware, whose image you see on the screen here and is in the packet. And I turn this over to City Librarian Michael Lambert to illuminate the extraordinary life and contributions that Larry made. Thank you.
Thank you, President Wolf. I appreciate this opportunity to pay tribute to our late Council of Neighborhood Libraries member, Larry Ware. Just before the holidays, it was brought to our attention that our beloved former CNL member, Larry Ware, had passed away earlier in 2024. As we now approach the one-year anniversary of Larry's passing, library staff did not want to miss this opportunity to honor Larry's life and his passionate contributions to the San Francisco Public Library. As noted in his obituary, Larry was born in 1952 in Carrollton, Georgia, to Billy Ware and Dorothy McKeever Ware. In 1957, Larry and his family moved to and settled in San Francisco, where he married and raised 2 children, Truth Christopher Ware and Precious Ware. Larry was a graduate of Galileo High School and attended City College. In 1988, when San Francisco Public Library was facing budget cuts and potential closure of neighborhood branches, Larry joined a group of fierce advocates who fought to keep their branches open. This group later became known as the Council of Neighborhood Libraries, where Larry served as the advocate and representative of the Linda Brooks Burton Bayview branch. During his many years of service at the library, and in addition to his role as a CNL rep for Bayview, he provided tutoring for youth and worked closely with the then manager of the branch, Linda Brooks Burton, to coordinate and host the Bayview Poetry Recital. Larry served as Bayview Poet Laureate in recognition of his own work and commitment to this art form. In 2008, Larry was honored as an unsung hero by the San Francisco Public Library for his significant contributions to the city. Thank you, Larry Ware, and Larry Ware's family for all of Larry's contributions over the years as a committed advocate for our public library system. His legacy made a difference in the lives of so many people that he touched with his passion and his art. In Larry's immortal words, somewhere someone has said and done something beautiful. It was you, Larry. It was always you. To this day, I can still hear Larry reciting his poem in person at our Council of Neighborhood Library meetings to our collective delight. May he rest as he lived in power. Commissioners, I appreciate your consideration this evening of adjourning today's meeting in memory of Larry Ware.
Thank you very much for that beautiful tribute and for the opportunity to honor the contributions he has made, the enduring contributions that continue. Before we move to vote on this, we open this up for public comment. So public comment is now open here in Corrett Auditorium.
Peter Warfield, Library Users Association. I certainly endorse adjourning in memory of Larry Ware. I believe he was one of the few Council of Neighborhood Libraries members who showed up at Library Commission meetings very occasionally, but that was the level of activism that most of the folks there stayed away from. As I've said before, I think that you should not adjourn without insisting that issues or questions, matters of discussion or action that you think should be on future agendas ought to be included in this one. I think there were some very good questions though perhaps not enough about specifics on the budget that I think would be greatly valuable to have on future agendas. And I did want to say that Dr. Lopez, a fuller answer about the membership would be that it's all selected by the library or rejected by the library as to who is in there. And I'm not sure about the earlier parts, but certainly since the late 90s and forward, can't remember a time that I learned of what they did or that they came to a library commission with any particular issues, especially anything that might be critical or recommendations. And one of the members that I spoke with said that it was a tea party, and I said, "What's a tea party?" And the person said it's a place where really nothing gets actually done. So that's further information about the Council of Neighborhood Libraries for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any further public comment? Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Truth Christopher Ware.
Oh.
I want to thank you guys for just paying homage to my father and all his work, community work. I want to thank Rebecca just for reaching out to me. We're approaching the anniversary of his passing, and my sister would love to be here. She's in LA. She's not feeling too well, so I definitely wanted to just come and just say thank you guys. I'm a filmmaker and musician. My sister, she makes music, so we're definitely continuing his legacy. And it's important to definitely, just shed light on a lot of our pioneers, especially, Bayview Hunters Point, and one of the things me and my sister talked about when my father passed away was we just talked about, how are we going to continue on the legacy, him being able to bring people together, in the community, spoken word, music is something me and my sister are very passionate about. So one of the things me and my sister, thought about was we wanted to one day just create a poetry book in honor of, all of his work, have all his poems. And me as a filmmaker, I started coming up with ideas, and I don't know if you guys ever seen the movie Soul before. It's an animated film. And I was like, I would love to make an animated film in honor of my father. And I wanted to name it Visionary because he's the definition of a visionary. And I call myself a visionary. Not really a filmmaker or a musician, but I'm a visionary as well. So I just want to say thank you to all of you guys for, paying tribute to my father's work. And yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you so much for those meaningful words.
Hi, Rebecca, Chief of Branches, CNL, facilitator. So many fond memories of Mr. Ware and joining us for CNL meetings, Library Commission meetings, public programs. And when I learned about Larry's passing, I immediately reached out to Truth and I was like, how can we want to do this for him. He deserves this and so much more. And I got to go through kind of this photo history of his youth recitals that he did for years, and look at the video of him receiving the Unsung Hero, and also finding the one of his father, Reverend Ware, also receiving it, and I believe, oh gosh, it was one of the first ones. And so I'm happy to honor him. I miss him. He was always a gentle, kind soul. And yes, may he rest in power. And I count myself as being fortunate of also witnessing and listening to his verse. And I hope that any books that are created or film will include the many youth who were able to participate and create poems under his leadership. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Any further public comment? Public comments closed, but I just want to say thank you to those who spoke on behalf of Larry Ware, particularly his son, Truth. Thank you so much for offering those insights, and it's fantastic that you have embraced and somehow his spirit lives on through your work. And we're so honored to have you here today to be able to thank you for all that your father contributed. So really appreciate that. And we send our best wishes to your sister in Los Angeles and hope she's safe and well there. Any comments here from the, we'll move to adjourn, and I would like to see if there's a motion to adjourn in honor of the extraordinary memory of Larry Ware.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Mall and a second from Commissioner Lopez to adjourn the meeting in memory of the extraordinary Larry Ware and the contributions he made, not only through the library work he did, but through his artistic practice and his many contributions to the community that will endure and live on.
I'll take the roll call. Commissioners, please say aye or no when I call your name. President Wolf?
Aye.
Vice President Wong?
Aye.
Commissioner Mall?
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez?
Aye.
Commissioner Bolander?
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Here's to a good new year ahead, and we look forward to seeing you in just a couple of weeks at the February Commission meeting. Thank you.